you ever had somebody say something half jokingly to you that hurt, and the more you replayed it over and over in your mind, it really began to sting because you knew there was some truth in it, and you wanted to take their head off afterwards? Well, before you take your friend or your family member or your coworker's head off, let me tell you about the jester's privilege. Back in the day of kings and castles, what would sit next to the king was the jester. Some people would call him a fool. He wasn't a noble or a knight, but he was this guy that often dressed in colorful clothes, but he was there to lift the king's spirits, to tell jokes and use wit and entertainment to keep the king in good spirits. But he was also valuable to the king and the kingdom because he would tell the truth. And people would come before the king, nobles and knights, and they'd bring gifts and accolades, and sometimes it was all these, kisses and if you will, smiles. And it was up to the jester to really know what the word on the street was and what people really thought of the king. And the jester could sometimes use wit to tell the truth and to whisper that to the king, but sometimes you just tell him in brutal honesty. And he might say, hey, those kisses and those smiles are just a wrapping for lies and betrayal. And thus it made him also the most risky position in the kingdom. Although he was the most valuable, that when the king would hear this brutal honesty, sometimes his reaction was just to want to take somebody's head off for saying it. And although if you research in history, you may not find that actual jester lost their head, but they came pretty close. There was a few that were banished from the kingdom, lost their jobs, and if you will, were jailed, and sometimes far worse like torture. And although that was the rare case, they came up with this idea called the jester's privilege. Someone that could speak truth to power without having their head taken off. Someone that could be brutally honest. And when I think about this passage over and over again here recently, but about Proverbs 27:6, and it says that faithful are the wounds of the friend, but profuse are the kisses of the enemy. I hope that I have in my life, I hope that you do listening to this, that you would have somebody that would speak brutally honest to you in your life and use it and do it in a tactful way. But the real question is this: do you have somebody that could speak almost like in a way of intervention, speak brutally honest to you? Would you just open that up in your life to have someone that could speak brutally honest to you without you taking their head off? So the question is, do you have somebody in your life that has the jester's privilege?